the controller had told us that these objects have been observed for over 2 weeks, coming down from over 80,000 feet, rapidly descending to 20,000 feet, hanging out for hours, and then going straight back up. For those who don't realize, above 80,000 feet is space.
Is there a correlation between any of the characteristics of these UAPs, UFOs?
What we tend to see are the smaller vehicles tend to be, think of a sports car. The large ones tend to be, not always, but almost exclusively either triangular shape or boomerang shape.
Werewolves? I see dead people walking around like they don't see each other. They only see what they want to see. They don't know they're dead.
The UFO, UAP community was fairly surprised. Shocked might be a better word.
If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
Biologics came to some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human.
Do you think there is life on other planets?
Well, I'm not quite sure, but I suppose there would be.
I've seen a flying saucer.
You've seen one?
Yes, definitely. At Lane Cove.
When was it?
1953.
You don't think this is a figment of your imagination?
Several other people with me saw it.
There is now a new UFO whistleblower with some major bombshell-level statements.
There is very compelling evidence that we may not be alone.
This episode is brought to you by some amazing people. Patrick O'Leary, Marcel Gouffonian Metalhead, Nutslap, Tabin Rice. Welcome to the show. Living Life Consciously with Hello Allie, Gemini Moon, Space Baby, Mythoclast, Ray B, Gene G-Force Star, Moody Mongol, Lisa B, Fur 3 Norm, Grey Wolf, and Joanne, Shelley Montgomery, Aaron's Energy 313, Multifaceted Jules, Eric Booth, The Diz Loki, Nathan from the Quantum Show, Gary T, T-Bone, Richard and Fern Harrison, Eddie Tab, Mecca Mickey, Diane Boss, and Jeanette Angel. And a special thank you to all of our subscribers on YouTube, Spotify, and now on Rumble. If you wish to support the podcast, you can hit that join button below to become an Eyes to That Sky member. Or if you want to join the Patreon or to provide other support, the links are below in the show description. But now, on with the show. Welcome to the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast, where we explore the unexplained and mysterious phenomena that have occurred throughout the state of Michigan and beyond.
From UFO sightings to ghostly encounters, we delve deep into the stories, the evidence, and the theories behind these strange events.
We are your hosts. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Wayne.
We are an educator duo that after an encounter with a triangular UFO in 2018 in Michigan, we decided to investigate UFOs and the paranormal. In this podcast, we will be speaking with eyewitnesses, experts, and researchers to uncover the truth about some of the most intriguing cases of paranormal activity in and around Michigan.
Our goal is not to convince anyone of the existence of these phenomena, but rather to provide a platform for discussion and exploration. So, buckle up and join us on this journey down the paranormal rabbit hole.
On an escalator.
Okay, hello everyone. How's it going out there?
Hey everyone.
It is a holiday Sunday, and it is Easter Sunday, April 20th, 2025, and we're coming to you from deep inside our bunker, tucked in the shadow of the great Motor City, Detroit, Michigan, on a cool spring night, as we get ready to talk with the authors of The Orchid and the Power of Consciousness, Rocio Aquino and Angel Orengo. You know what to do. Grab your favorite drink, a tasty snack, and settle in as we prepare to hear from a couple of amazing guests about human consciousness and inner well-being. We're also going to dive into exploring questions like, is there more to human consciousness than just personal growth and well-being? Is there a connection to the paranormal psychic side that we have forgotten that allows us to manifest things like aliens, UFOs, cryptids, remote viewing? I'm looking at you, Michelle. Contacting the other side and the like. But first, we got to do our quick housekeeping. Michelle, take it away.
I'm just kind of stuck at you telling people to go grab snacks. Most people are probably eating dinner. I'm in a food coma. I know this man's in a food coma too.
Yes.
He's just living in denial.
Yep. And that's not Egypt. That's the Nile, not the Nile.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
All right. So if you have a story that you would like to tell, or if you would like to contact the show, you can email us at mi.ufo.podcast@gmail.com.
Also, if you'd like to support the podcast and the show, you can do so with PayPal, Super Chats, buy us a coffee, check out our merchandise store, or join the Patreon. All those links can be found below in the show description. If you do decide to become a YouTube member or a Patreon member, we will give you a shout out during the intro, and you will be listed in the credits at the end of the show as a special thank you for your support.
Speaking of which, I do need to redo that intro.
Yes, you do.
So
we'll get there.
Yeah, that'll be one of our jobs this week. Among state testing, union meeting, grading papers for my class. Okay.
All right.
Back to this.
Lock in, Michelle.
I'm locking in. So don't forget to smash, not just hit, not just click, but smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel and share us out.
Absolutely. And then remember, you can also find the show on audio podcast hosts everywhere. You can look us up on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, among others. Get over there and follow the audio version of the show and leave us a review. It helps us grow. And by the way, receive some interesting information this week, Michelle, about the audio podcast. In Michigan, we are in the top 100 most listened to podcast in Michigan at number 27.
And that is actually my favorite number.
It is your favorite number. You add those two digits together, you get 9. Okay, let's not go there.
Here we go.
It's not that kind of a night. Maybe it is. I don't know.
Numerology night.
But globally, we are in the top 10% globally of listened podcasts, which actually blows our mind. So once again, if you guys like to listen to these while you're working or out walking, getting some exercise, working out, you like to catch up on all your paranormal and UFO information, just subscribe. Or I think all it is now is just like following, and you will get the latest episodes and our whole catalog of 160 some shows now, all there for you to listen to. And Michelle, what about next Sunday? What do we got going on?
Next Sunday, April 27th, speaking of the number 27.
Yep.
2025, we will be having on Michael Roser to talk about the possible discoveries under the pyramids, human consciousness, and the connection to the paranormal.
That's right. He's very much into that stuff. You know, he does his documentaries, the Montauk Creature, all those things that he's been working on. and a very good friend of the show. So we'll be talking to him
Yeah,
again.
Michael's a
next
cool
week.
dude.
Yes. All right, Michelle, I think it is time to almost bring on our guest, but you know what you have to do. We have to
I
talk
have to
about
say
their background.
hi to, I'm doing the background. I'm not saying hi to people in chat.
Well, go ahead. Say hi to people in
I
chat.
know that we had Diane and T-Bone with us earlier. We've got Nathan from the Quantum Show.
Yes, they're busy with family.
Yep,
They
we
are.
have Tabin. We have Blue Crossroads. Straw Dog, I think, popped in for a second.
Yep.
We've got, let's see, Mark
Jason
Eddy is with us.
Finch.
Jason Finch has joined us.
Yeah.
So, and I know that many others will be popping in as we go along.
And again, this stuff will, this episode, along with all the other ones, will be in our catalog and library from here to the end of YouTube and all of this stuff. So, maybe if you're not here live, you can listen later. All right, Michelle, now let's talk bios.
Yep, I'm going to tell everyone about our two lovely guests that are going to be joining us within the next couple minutes. So we have Rocio Aquino and Angel Orengo are the co-founders for the Highest Good LLC, a company dedicated to creating transformative narratives that inspire personal growth and empowerment. Together, they blend their vast professional and global experience to design projects that foster conscious leadership and a more authentic way of living. Rocio, born in Mexico City and now based in Los Angeles, has built a distinguished career in media and advertising sales, working with renowned companies such as Cablevision, Time Magazine, TV Azteca, Nickelodeon, Sony Pictures Entertainment, and A&E Mundo. Her career and life journey has taken her to cities like Miami, Hong Kong, and London, shaping her talent for connecting people, ideas, and opportunities. Angel, originally from Puerto Rico and a graduate of Cornell University, had a successful career at Sony Pictures Entertainment, where he led content distribution teams across Latin America, Asia Pacific, and Europe. With experience spanning over 65 countries, Angel has merged his corporate leadership with a profound journey of self-discovery and purpose. Both firmly believe that inner well-being is the foundation for prosperity in all aspects of life, including business. They advocate that when a person is in harmony with themselves, their professional endeavors flour more authentically and productively, leading to sustainable and meaningful results. Their debut work, The Orchid, The Secret Code of Modern Goddesses, invites readers to discover their inner power and find balance in their lives. It serves as a reminder that self-love, gratitude, and inner clarity are the keys to achieving success in all areas of life.
Yeah. So with that being said, let's go ahead and go to our scene and let's switch the stages here. Our guests tonight, Angel and Rocio.
I'm smiling so much to be here with you guys.
Good.
Thank you, and what a entrance, really. I'm really
You guys deserve
grateful.
it. You guys are
Thanks
awesome.
very much. Thanks for the space. We are super excited to be here.
Absolutely. So this is a little bit of a digression from what we generally talk about we were talking about this before the show started and kind of where your book goes and that, but we were talking about there's some intersection that goes on with some of these things. And I want to make sure we get around to coming back to that and talking about that. But with our audience that's going to be hearing you and seeing you soon, can you tell us what inspired you guys with the writing? And I know it's a standard question, but for our audience who this is something new for, The Orchid, The Secret Code of the Modern Goddess or of Modern Goddesses. Can you kind of explain a little bit and what got you going with that?
Look, it's very difficult to try to put a vision of 30 years in the most contract, like a small part, but let me try to say it quickly. After going around the world and see a lot, you begin to understand that people are asleep and they need different kind of stories to really feel better about themselves. because in the moment they feel better about themselves, we can do things and you can make changes in your life, but you begin to understand consciousness, and when you are not in survival, then curiosity arises, and then you can begin to get curious about what is happening around you. So after a really profound process that we had, we were able now to explain step by step how you can feel better about your emotional body. And after that, we are giving people a bigger understanding of what they can achieve. And that is the point, like put out there really quick, true stories, tools for people to feel better about themselves. I don't know what you want to say.
Well, look, I was excited to hear that next week you're having someone who's going to speak about human consciousness, who's going to speak about the new findings underneath the pyramids. We are learning so much about this world and everything that's happening and has been happening around us in the last 5 to 10 years, right?
It's like at the speed of light. I mean, it's just like this.
That's right. Yes. And I believe that we're going to find the same about us humans, right? And when we were going through deep introspection, right, and we started taking classes and reading and understanding, we opened our book with a quote from Nikola Tesla that it says, if you really want to get down to the bottom of the secrets of the universe, you got to start thinking in terms of vibration, energy, and frequency. And we started seeing the change that was happening in our lives through the changes that we were doing introspectively. We started to realize that we were really powerful. And as we became more powerful and more introspective individually, our marriage improved. And as our marriage improved, because no longer were we fighting each other, we were now a force, two forces working together towards something. And then we saw our daughters, our teenage daughters change. My mom started to change. So really, I do think there is it's not even an intersection. I think they are intertwined, deeply intertwined, that the moment that we start touching and getting in touch with our inner power, we're going to be like peeling an onion. And we're going to find out that a lot of the things that we consider paranormal today were everyday things of human beings eons ago. Our ability to talk to each other without saying a word telepathically, our ability to do remote viewing, as you were mentioning in our earlier conversation. And so but before we do all that, because there are many people that are reluctant to walk into those conversations. One of the things that we need to start doing, and this is where our book came in, is to start feeling better about the power that we hold ourselves, because we've relinquished that power in many ways. So our attempt at sharing this novel with the world is to do it through storytelling, so that it becomes something that you can follow along, as long as a textbook, and not a textbook that you have to learn and execute. And really, it's about 5 lessons: awareness, gratitude, forgiveness, acceptance, and intention. And the idea is that when you tap into those as powers, not mere words, you tap into something deep inside yourself that allows you to then ask more questions. And I believe those are the questions that get into some, and perhaps all of the conversations that you're involved in every one of your shows.
You know, Wayne, Michelle, at one point we read more than 200 books about the different subjects of consciousness. And it's how we can translate this in the very easy way that one book, one novel, one story begins to give you inspiration for your life, and getting ideas and all the possibilities that you can achieve. right? Because it's important to tell stories that are super positive, and when you feel better about your situation right now, accepting where you are, but you gain consciousness, you really can change your situation and your track of where you are going. And that is, they've been talking a lot about, but when I was asking people how you forgive and people cannot tell you exactly what to do, it's like, okay, let's give them the information for them to really understand deeply how they can move on for what happened 10 years ago, 5 seconds ago. And it's like that you begin to understand your superpower of choice.
Yeah.
And that allow you, when you begin to touch with yourself and your intuition, to really see more.
When you say it, I'm reminded of a quote when you say things that happened in the past. And I remember hearing this quote that you need to think of your life as kind of like a boat. You leave the wake behind. The wake is left behind. It does not push the boat. The sails push the boat. You driving the boat makes the boat go where it wants, but the wake is left behind. So let that stuff go from years and years ago and focus on moving forward ahead. I can't remember who it was, Dr. Wayne Dyer, or I think that was one of the guy. I think he has since passed, but I remember seeing, and it's just weird how you remember things when somebody says something and it just comes back, and it's like, yes, the boat and the wake. The wake does not push the boat. So why are you letting your past push you, and control you? So that was very interesting. But I'm interested, Rocio, of your comment about seeing people asleep. Do you think that our technology and the world we're in today is very, very much geared to keeping people asleep now in trying to kind of keep us in this bubble so we don't get to this realization of self and being able to speak telepathically and learning these frequencies, all this stuff that we have in us? Do you think there's something maybe there that is wanting to hold us back from that? But there's shows like ours and you guys, right? There's what they call the light workers out there that are trying to bring this stuff forward and make people become more conscious. But me personally, as a teacher, and Michelle as well, there's so many things, especially for the children, that it almost seems conspiratorial that these things are designed to hold us back and to put us in these prisons that we end up creating for ourselves. So, please comment.
When we were in Hong Kong, in the schools, you begin to see it. And then in London was happening already, and the disconnection, and the parents, like a little bit older and younger, they don't have idea what is happening because no one is watching the same. The algorithm is sending totally different things to everyone. So, and then we came to LA and we observe more. So that's why it's super important to really be conscious and to understand that at one point, if you feel bad about yourself, you don't feel like you have the power to go and talk to your husband about the most basic things, and then neither with your kids. So believe me, I was a housewife, a normal. But then I begin to see all these things happening and how much is affecting the relationships of the family, of what you want to achieve, or really is like looks like we are not, the kids are becoming more fragile. So it's like we need to wake up for and think for yourself about how powerful are you. So I see it, and now that you tell me, is everywhere, is happening, and the distraction to have things and the answers outside of ourselves and not inside of ourselves. So it's very important to really, because it's a race that you never gonna get, if the race of having things. And really the answer is always inside of you, because it's always a house or a car onto like have this, and then you are really distracting of what is happening. Life is happening, and you are missing an amazing opportunities to see many things only because you are distracted.
One of the first lessons that we teach in the novel is awareness. And we actually dedicate an entire chapter to limiting beliefs, right? And what we say is, look at your life as if you were on stage, looking at Wayne, looking at Michelle, Angel looking at Angel, and so on, and ask yourself, why do I react the way I react? Why do I speak the way I speak? Why? Because the moment that you start to ask a question, the thing that follows is a potential answer, right? And then the question is, well, do I like the answers? And if I like them, then by all means, continue living the way you're living, because you've made a conscious decision that you like it and it's okay. But maybe the answer is, I don't like the way I'm responding. I think it's not me. It sounds like my mom answering the question, not me, or my dad, or whatever. And so it's an invitation to really, for everybody, to look around them and ask themselves why, and it goes back to your question, why are we being fed this information? Or why did we not know that there were extraterrestrial beings, right? For such a long time, and until only recently did the government made it official that there is such a thing. And I think the moment you start opening yourself up to those things, again, coming back to us as individuals, then is there more power to me than what I've been led to believe? And our answer is, we think so. We've experienced it ourselves. And it's a lightness that you begin to experience, where you're no longer carrying guilt and shame and trauma and past. If you're able to get over those, then all of a sudden you start vibrating at a different energy, just lighter. You feel better. We see those people. They may be sweeping the street, and by gosh, they're doing it with such energy and kindness and effortlessly. That's a power that I think translates into other aspects of your life. And I believe that as we become more in tune with that, we're going to start seeing other things around us that we weren't seeing before. We might even start looking at what we call paranormal today as usual things that begin to happen more and more, the synchronicities, these miracles begin to happen. And all of a sudden you're like, I'm living a different dimension. I am not the person I was. I am literally someone different, simply because I think differently and I've released everything, these chains that were holding me down. Yeah, and so that's what this book is about. It's about releasing the weight that's holding you down from flying really high.
Yeah, and I need to say that I find it fascinating that you guys put awareness as number one thing, because while I was in the military and I studied martial arts and taught martial arts for 20 years, one of the first things you want to learn, and you're always told, is to be aware of your surroundings. In martial arts, it's be aware of your body in your mental state.
Right.
So there's this like focus of, and again, this is more on the masculine energy side of things, is where I go with this, but it all sounds the same. It's all just, female, male energies, yin and yang, we have to work together, right? We have our positives and our negatives and stuff. But then you said, Angel, about, why am I reacting this way? Is it my mother? And I'm sitting here going, wow, that's me. That's my Scottish background. I'll be really quiet and fine for a long time. I'm the most mellow person. And then there's just like that tipping point where then I am screaming. I'm like just ballistic. Like I'm ready to go at that point. It's really weird. And as I sit here and think about this and I go, yeah, that was my mom. My mom would say maybe a couple words a day to me, growing up, and my dad wasn't around. So I learned all of my emotional regulation from my mother and my sisters, which was not good. Not for a boy. It's not in certain contexts it would be good, but I didn't have the other side of the male energy except for my male friends who were all, let's go fight and play football and tackle each other and go in the military and da. So I didn't get like a governor on emotional regulation, and it didn't really start happening for me until I went in the military and learned discipline. That's where I had to start putting it together, because now it's real. You're going to get into real trouble if you start acting out, right? And then martial arts, obviously, because one of the first things you learn is you're training with somebody. You don't want to get mad and hurt your training partner. This is somebody that's there to, and we always learned it as they are here to help you to become better at this art, and you're learning how to be better back to them. So this awareness thing is very fascinating, and it's great that you put it as like the first thing that you guys talk about.
Yeah, it was important for us because it's what we experienced. The book really is our experiences as we were going through this transformation, but told through the story of 5 women. And we chose women because there is such a need for feminine energy to be strengthened, if you will, because the world needs that balance, right? We need that yin and yang equilibrium, if you will. And so it was important because it was through that awareness as we were finding about ourselves, but not just about ourselves. We read books, and we read books on energy, on how and ideas are a vibration. I mean, we went wide. And it was really interesting because we started to see how everything correlated to each other.
Yep.
The moment, it's like a puzzle, right? It's like a 1,000-piece puzzle where every little, it's like, I'm sure, as you look at all your episodes, you start putting one episode, you're like, oh, that relates to this and that and that. And all of a sudden we start to get the picture of humanity, of ourselves. And I think that's similar also in the world. The more we discover new findings that are under the oceans or under the deserts, we're going to find pieces of information that tell us more about who we are and where we come from. And so that's the first, and it had to be, because also the moment you become aware, then you're open to the idea that there's more around you that you might have been close to before. And that's really important. Even that awareness that there is more than I understand, that there's so much that I don't know, and I'm willing to open the door of curiosity to find out what that is. I may not agree with it, but I should at least open the door and educate myself.
Sure. I think Michelle wanted to ask you guys.
I do. I have a 2-part question here, because one of the elements that I love working with my kids is symbolism. And when I looked at the cover of your book, and when Wayne began talking to me about this episode, the orchid. So of all of the flowers and all of the titles that are out there that you could have chosen, why the title The Orchid, and what does the orchid symbolize in the context of the book?
What we want to remember is the secret code of modern goddesses. And is women, we've been believing that at one point the only person who has it all is certain kind of women who is in the magazines or in the movies, or is certain kind of person. And what we want to invite more people to understand is everyone is unique and perfect. So the orchid has more than 30,000 species around the world, and has anything that you can imagine. The variety is humongous, so much that even some orchids has testicles. So you find the feminine part in a plant who is absolutely unique, who has the yin and yang. And in the title, you're gonna see an orchid with an eye, with an eye. And the eye is to go inside of you, really, because it's the real discover here is to do your own discover for your unlimited capabilities that any person can have. So imagine everyone is an orchid, unique, special, has the yin and yang, and really the answers are inside of us, what we're gonna connect with something else.
And the reason why we call it the secret code is because sometimes we're looking for answers outside of us. And we're looking for what people are telling us or institutions are telling us. And really, what we wanted to point out is it's almost too simple. It's almost a joke, right? It's through gratitude, forgiveness, and acceptance, and relinquishing all this weight that we carry, we actually become more power for ourselves because we're no longer giving that power to anything else, but we're going inside to find it within us. And so the joke is, well, it's secret because it's right in front of our eyes and we can't see it. And it's just so simple.
Yeah, the secret is that you already have the answers. You just
That's
have to
absolutely right.
listen.
That's
have to listen to yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's super important. Believe me, when you were saying that you used to smack in 2 seconds, I was the same. And now that I know that I can change that, is, of course, is I can modify anything that I was learned from my house. Even at one point, I have this limiting belief about math, about beautiful, about power, about so many things that I was not enough. So many things that I've been working myself. And the beautiful thing that we propose in the novel is really we need to work together like community. So it's really an invitation for society to go to the next level.
Yeah, and I was reading bits and pieces of information about your book, like I said. And by the way, everybody, I haven't had time to read it, but I want to show everybody what they sent to me.
It is on our summer read list, and actually, I'll probably be the first to read it. He gets it second.
Yeah, you can have it first. That's fine. But it came nicely wrapped in this tissue paper with a dried orchid. It's sealed, and it looks like there's a little tie right here. But I didn't want to open it. I was like, it's too pretty and delicate. I don't want to. It's a great size tome. I mean,
see, and I love orchids, so the fact that there's a dried one on the cover.
But it was such a beautiful book. I didn't want to open it. In Michelle being, Michelle and I being teachers, we don't have a lot of spare time for reading except over the summer, and that's where we catch up on a ton of our personal stuff that we want to do.
Summers and maybe Christmas vacation. That's about
it. So speaking, go ahead.
I'm really looking forward for your comments in the summer. Please call us and let us know.
I was going to say we'll have to revisit this discussion.
Yes.
Later in August when we've had a chance to, for both of us to read it.
Yeah.
And
yep, for sure.
Well, please.
It will be our pleasure.
Yeah.
Well, and I would like to know, have you received feedback from readers who said that the book has changed their lives? Any sort of feedback?
Yes. We often say that we cry every day. We shed tears on a daily basis because there's always a comment that arrives of someone who, there's been people from, you've taken me out of my depression. There's people that say, I am sharing this with my wife, with my daughter. I'm reading it with my mom, and it's changing the way we speak to each other.
I think that I read the book, I understand better women and how they are struggling. It's like they go to really to understand what is doing is building bridges between for communication that I really happen this to you, and it's like a yes, is real what happened to the characters, because we have 5 different women who has different experience, but everyone, really everyone in the world is carrying trauma at different levels, but everyone has something, and we need to have more of these conversations about, I let it go, I forgive, was super difficult, I was lonely, I was abused sexually, and it's like, okay, but that doesn't define me. And how we can move from really clean that from the past and move forward to a beautiful future that really we are creating in this moment.
There was a beautiful conversation we were having about 2 days ago, in fact, and the gentleman read the book. We knew him, and so he was going to read the book anyway, but he gave us the most beautiful comment. He said, after reading the book, I understood women in a different light. In fact, after that, I saw a friend of mine, a female friend of mine who I grew up with, and I had some of the deepest, most profound conversations I've ever had with her because of having read the book. So it's what's beautiful about the book is that as you follow these women, these women arrive at a retreat center in Northern California, and we spend about 10% of the book, maybe less, speaking about what happened to them. What was the reason why they're there in the first place? What was the trauma in their lives? And there is, gender issues, there is anger with the world, there is divorce, there is success, but can't appreciate it or enjoy it because there's something that doesn't allow me to. And as these women, and there's anger, yes. And as these women experience, what we did in the book is we shared lessons and we shared exercises like the ones we were practicing in our daily lives and still do, so that the reader could follow along with simple exercises. And that way that person can feel like he or she is going to a retreat center and experience what they're experiencing themselves. And by the end of the retreat or end the book, you, instead of really just having 5 people who you're following, it really becomes 6. You begin to experience yourself, the changes, and they're profound because you start to ask yourself questions. And that leads, right? And again, it's not the book, it's the opening of a door. The moment you open the door and you walk through it and you say, okay, I'm aware, I know I have tools like gratitude, forgiveness, and acceptance that I can use to shed some of this weight. And now I'm going to become more intentional about the life that I'm living, whether it's my conversation with my significant other, my job, the way I show up at breakfast table in the morning, whatever it is. When you become more intentional, your life changes because you're in the present moment. And all of a sudden, everything, our experience was, it started to fall in place and you start to see the world entirely different. And that's when the power begins. When you start to not react, but act. When that training, Wayne, that you mentioned, right? And I didn't get a chance to go into the armed forces, but I have to imagine that it's all about breathe, think, then choose to act. Because it's in the choosing that we become effective. And we've not used those tools in our daily lives. The moment you start using it in your daily lives, became much more intentional. And that's the purpose of the book.
And really the best part is at the end, when we teach the characters how they can see themselves in 3 years. Because when you begin to plan and what do you want to achieve, you can begin to go in that direction. And we don't want the same. It's not a competition. It's, what you guys want and what we want is totally different. So that's the beauty of I'm expressing myself from a place of power and clarity, and the same for you guys. So we are transmitting right now this energy to everyone that is listening or watching this program with you, because it's possibilities, it's hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, Angel, when you said, our mindset because I was an infantryman, so it was, we were going to be on the front lines and stuff. And they would always say, take a breath. When things start going crazy, take a breath, relax, look around, and then make a call.
Right.
And then go for it,
Right.
because a lot of people have this misconception of the military. Most people think it's always like boot camp, people yelling and screaming at you, telling you what to do and beating you up and all this stuff. But after boot camp, you become part of teams of people that are highly motivated and highly disciplined, and they don't want you to die in war, and they don't want you to get them killed in war. Right. So it's like this very weird thing, and rank almost goes to like almost non-existent. It's there as a formality, but the higher ups always listen to the guys with the most experience. If it was the officers who maybe a 20-year-old college graduate, they're the ones in charge. They have all the responsibility. They would ask a lot of the lower level guys, how do you want to do this? What do you think is the best way? They would ultimately make the call, but they listen to everybody. And so it's that same kind of like mindset of, relax, look around. So ask people, take it in, then just make the call. Just, you're in charge. So, and it's not like you're in charge and barking at people constantly. It's like being the one in charge. You are in charge of those people, those life forms, those souls, right? That's a huge responsibility to be in charge, to be the one in charge. And it again, a lot of the media and stuff really distorts that image, but they're not, we were not inhuman robots and things like that. It's still, and I think that's why we see, and I would be very interested to read this book as a vet, but also I have some friends that were, deep combat vets, special forces and things like that, I think would be interested to read this book and see what their take on it. Cause they carry there's a lot of stuff we had to do and things that they carry with them. And, the silent professional type of stuff where, guys, we just don't want to talk about it, kind of things.
I know we need to provide the space really for healing.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for telling me the story, because help me to understand better the brotherhood of the really this beautiful relationship that you are doing at that moment, and how if we don't know, people judge.
Sure.
And this humanize
Mm-hmm.
something that was really, and that's why we need to know better to protect our everyone in society. And we live in LA, and we see many people who has been left out, and really is how we bring more energy, feminine energy, to protection, for open circles, to talk about it and to let go.
It's really important to mention this. When we wrote the book, it was really important to ensure that it was non-judgmental. So really, nowhere in the book is anyone asked, but why did you? Right? It's not important what happened in the past. We are the results of so many decisions, that were taken for us, And ultimately, the question is, are you ready to let go of that weight? If something that is weighing you down, and I have some close friends who were in the military as well, and they speak of their experiences and going in tunnels and trenches and no lights and having to do whatever they had to do. But it's sometimes, Wayne, the biggest forgiveness that has to be done is to oneself. I did the best that I could. I was in a situation, I did what I had to do, but I need to forgive myself for any guilt and shame that is associated with it. It is the only way to relinquish that past and move forward. And so the book does that in a very gentle way, because it is really, really important for everybody to experience that. Until we release guilt and shame, we cannot go on to some of the higher vibrations and the higher energies that are going to allow us to then grow and expand and see the paranormal and experience it with different eyes. So it's really important to do that.
So do you think that if people read your book and went through it, you think they would have an opening, not just an awakening to like themselves, but maybe more of an awakening to this paranormal spiritual world that we live in? Do you think it would help them achieve that higher vibration and being able to sense those things?
They gonna begin to understand that they have the power. And because at one point in one page, we put there the inner growth, the spectrum of inner
We call it the
growth.
spectrum of inner growth. It's a table.
It's a table. And that table, you begin to see what is survival. And all the elements that survival brings, that is heavy, is really so. But in the moment that you begin to understand that you can move from there, and we put in the book, 90% of the book is about possibilities, how to do it, how you can go. Maybe somebody's going to enter to forgiveness from here, but another person is going to be doing it from here. So the important is the seed begins to grow in your consciousness of, oh my God, I can do it in a different way. Or, I can, and only that question begins to bring you a more understanding about yourself. And then because you are beginning to really elevate yourself and understand, then more things are opening for every person.
Our experience has been, I will speak for myself, that the deeper I went into angels' existence, the more I understood the greater existence around me. And I think it's inevitable, to go back to your specific question, it's inevitable when you encounter and find your inner power, you start seeing your connectivity to the rest of the world. And all of a sudden, things that and of course to that you add all the other context of things that we're finding out, right? That there is more about extraterrestrial lives, that there is something below the pyramids that extends for many, many thousands of feet below it, and so on. And you start to say, whoa. And it just begins. And the good thing is we live in a world in which all this information is highly accessible, where there's programs on Netflix and documentaries and the studies of the pyramids all over the world and how they're all so related to each other. And so it is inevitable, but because you are in a stronger position individually, you almost find yourself in a better place to make the connection with you and the world around you. I believe that when we are in a weaker emotional state, you feel disconnected from everything around you. We see it in people who are highly depressed, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, there is no connection. The opposite is true. When you feel very strong and very good about yourself, and I'm speaking a healthy good, healthy, strong, then you start to see the connectivity that exists between you and other people and the rest of the world.
And the universe.
And the universe around you.
That seems like it would be really overwhelming. Like once you get to the point, and I think I've been there a few times where it's like you can feel like every like hair on your arms start to move.
Yes.
Or you can hear little bits of sound of this, that, you know, it, or a certain tune comes into your head that, you know, you haven't heard in forever. It's just, there is this really weird, and, you know, funny enough is when I used to do a lot of sparring in martial arts, the calmest I was right before the fight would start. And I think the Japanese had a term for it called mushen, or empty mind, just being completely relaxed, because if you are tense, you shut down. You can't move from everything being squeezed together. But if you want to get out of the way, just be relaxed and let gravity let you fall. You know, those kind of things. And again, this is where I think so much of this stuff is related from a physical standpoint to a mental standpoint, to a spiritual standpoint, almost then to a metaphysical. You start to begin to feel the air vibrate around you. You know, if somebody's walking up behind you, you can sense these things, and then you become very open to more information. It's really bizarre, and it's really hard to try to talk to somebody about it without them looking at you going, "You're absolutely crazy."
I know. I believe me, we've been at the beginning when I was feeling for first time that I was not a victim. And my emotional body was feeling less heavy because I was carrying all the things of my past, right? My father, my mother, my sister, my brother, my friend, my like ex-boyfriend, boyfriend, whatever. But at one point I was letting go. And I was trying to explain to other people, and they were like, no. But now, after 1 year of the book that finally they were reading, we did a podcast of 18 women and how the book was changing them. And it's like, I finally entered to myself and I finally changed this. So everyone is looking for something different. So everyone is going to take something different.
One comparison that I like to do once in a while is, and I think your audience might relate to this, the movie The Matrix. Now, when Neo, and I mean, there's 3 points in the movie. In the beginning of the movie, bullets are fired at him and he gets hurt, right? In the middle of the movie, he starts to swivel and move around them, and he still kind of gets hurt a little bit, but he's able to avoid them some. By the end of the movie, he puts his hand up and just stops the bullet. Now, let's change the bullets for a second and say that those are not bullets, but words. Imagine how many of us walk through every day of our life being heard what somebody says. Oh, you offended me. Oh, I can't believe you're saying that to me. All we're really doing is giving that person and those words energy. But the moment that you start getting in tune with yourself and you start using these tools, forgiveness, acceptance, intention, you begin to not be bothered by those words. And all of a sudden, at the end of that, your movie, you simply, the words don't matter. They're words, they can't touch you. That is the power that we are speaking of. That is the beginning of when you start to realize, I am not going around walking through my life giving everybody who looks at me badly, wrongly, my energy. No, my energy is reserved for the things that I'm very intentional about, for my dreams, for my projects, and that's worthy of my energy. Everything else, I just ignore, because unless it touches me physically,
It's noise.
It's noise, and I am not going to yield to it. And so in a way, it is very related to martial arts. I remember I took very little Kung Fu, and the first lesson was walk away. The first lesson is use your legs, the most powerful tool you have. Walk away. You don't need to show anybody how powerful you are. And that is the power that we're talking about. And that's just at the early stage. The moment that you start advancing through that, you start to realize that you become, the Neo of every aspect of your life. All of a sudden, the relationship with your mom doesn't bother you as much because you understand where she comes from. You don't agree with her or your sibling or whatever, your boss. And that's power that all of a sudden you retain, and you start to live your life slightly different and more intentionally. And as you go and you expand your mind a little bit more, all of a sudden you start learning that there are other things around you. And so that's the expansion that begins slowly. And it's like a muscle. We need to work at it and allow it to develop and grow. But it happens. And when it does, you are no longer at the mercy of the forces around you. This is a quote in the book, because you become the force, right? It's the person who knows, who really knows. They don't have to, what is it? There's in Spanish is dog which barks does not bite. It is the silent ones that really are the powerful ones, because you don't know what to expect from that. And that's, I believe, is where we can head through this practice and this training. But first, you got to heal, because normally when a word hits you hard is because of something that you haven't dealt with inside of you, right? It's a relationship, it's a trauma, it's a pain that you're still carrying. And so when somebody says, oh, your mother, you become incendiary because there is a relationship there that still needs to heal. And and so that's the intention in the novel.
And you need to think too about the energy you're giving back and expending for for really no real reason, instead of using that energy to focus on your intention as to what it is you're going to do and just kind of hand wave all that stuff off. You're expending your energy at the request of somebody else who's being negative to you.
That's right.
And so you're feeding into it. So, and I know Michelle's chomping at the bit. She wanted to ask you guys something here. So
no, I more or less wanted to say something because, I know that our listening audience, I mean, if you're on YouTube, obviously you can see this, but I'm sitting here nodding my head because when you talk about trauma and the baggage that people, put all of their trauma in, I used to make jokes probably a good 10, 15 years ago that I'm like a walking Oprah episode, and she'd probably ask me to be a returning guest because of just all the trauma, either from childhood all the way through adulthood. Some things I've dealt with, some things have made me stronger, some things I think that I've just avoided. So when I say that I am truly looking forward to reading this book and finding myself as a character, or seeing which one of the characters in it I identify with, to watch them on their personal journey in the book, to see where I can find some clarity also to release some of this trauma. So without getting too personal into the details.
Yeah. Well, I did notice that one of the characters that you had in the book was from Lansing, Michigan. Not too far from here, about an hour away. What inspired that character in why Lansing, Michigan?
Yeah, Jennifer. We've been incredibly privileged and lucky in that we've been able to travel throughout the world, and we wanted to honor different parts of our lives and the world, right? Because the world is so varied and multi everything. And so there's a woman from Singapore to honor. We lived in Hong Kong for some years, so we wanted to kind of make mention Asia. There is an African American woman. There's a woman from Mexico, and there's a divorced woman. We both come from divorced and single mothers. And my mom lives in Cleveland, Ohio. We wanted to make sure that we captured the essence of the individuals that we think would most benefit from this. And it was the average people in parts of the world that often go unlooked or overlooked in stories. And so when we partner, we were blessed in that we had a team of people that we work with to shape the stories, and to make sure that they were real. And the truth is, when you're authentic, everything is real because it comes from the heart. And so it was rather simple to do that. But it was a suggestion of one of our collaborators, and it was just dead on. And in fact, we have it in our calendars that one day we're going to do a tour through the cities of the 5 women that we follow in the book. And that really would be very powerful. We're probably a few months, if not a year away from doing that. But it was important for us to represent it.
If Jennifer ends up being the angry one and the one dealing with anger, that's a Michigan thing. So that is going to be totally understandable.
Yeah, blue collar workers here, and down dirty and gritty, and just
You will find that Jennifer is angry. She wasn't the angriest in the book. There's another one, but she was angry. She was angry at the world for having to let go of her dreams, for following another trajectory that didn't pan out as much as she expected. I'll leave it at that so that it doesn't ruin anything. But and so we wanted to make sure that people were represented, because it's something really important. What we found as we were traveling the world is that the wisdom of the universe and the wisdom of human beings, it spread throughout the world. And so Jennifer's growth and expansion is as important to me, who is not, from Lansing, Michigan, as it is from someone somewhere else. Because at the end, I think there's something beautiful about the human beings, that we share this DNA that has been around for a few thousand years, right? Millions of years. And we carry within us all the same traits, the same mechanisms of escape, of defense. And so it was really important to paint the picture of a multifaceted world, because at the end, that's how we learn too from each other.
And let me tell you something. At one point, we were in Hong Kong really seeing how very successful people were living and thinking. And after all the master and going around, you begin to see a way of think that very successful people has, and they really know how to pivot and see things for different perspective. They don't take things personally, and at one point it's like but I don't gonna be only limit for that. I'm gonna continue to do more. It's like this grit personality, like they go always in, how you say, expansion,
Yes.
like the theory of
Growth theory.
growth mindset.
Growth mindset.
Yeah.
So at one point when I was watching all that, is like oh my God, all this information, if you have it in a pyramid, is here. Okay, we need to pass it here to really do this, the change. So if more people understand how important is themselves, then you begin to see how is important the consciousness of your town. Because really is these ideas who has been implanted in ourselves, and we believe them. And depends where you are in the world, you think different things. For example, if you are in UK, the people there, they are, you know what, we want to Napoleon, and then we want to Hitler. No one conquer us, so we are the thing. And then you go to Mexico, and no, we are a third world country, and we do always bad things.
We were a
and
colony, we were conquered.
And we are, average. And then you begin to observe this kind of way of thinking in society in different cultures. And for example, another one, the French, is we gonna revolution, is, this is not gonna happen. So really it's important who is your neighbor. And in this world of distraction is how we can really gain ourselves, our consciousness to really move forward for what is coming.
Yeah.
And how important is to work together. So
yeah, the words matter. How you see yourself matters, right? It's, I don't have money, therefore I'm poor. Well, no, you just don't have money. You're not poor. Look at everything else in your life and find the abundance in your life. You have relationships, you have friendships, you are happy, right? So there's elements in the way in which we address ourselves that if we start to be much more critical and, again, intentional about the way we do that, even in the way we speak, we start to change ourselves as well. And that adds to that larger change, if you will, that ultimately catapults us into whatever next level we are. There's so much happening right now, so much information. Even, for example, there has been a lot of studies, I'm sure you must have heard about the Heart Math Institute, that ultimately is now starting to understand that there's a greater linkage between our brain and our heart than what we've studied or been led to believe. Notwithstanding, when somebody has to make a serious and very important decision in their lives, what is one of the things that we commonly say? Well, what does your heart say? It's not, well, what do you think about it?
I have a hunch.
I have a hunch, right? So I believe that these things have been lost over millennia, and we're now starting to remember and connect with ourselves. And I think there is a, call it industries or an intentional force out there that doesn't want us to be more powerful, that doesn't want us to get in touch with our inner selves or even to everything around us, that it's possible. And slowly but surely, you can contain, the genie is out of the bottle, and we will continue to expand and grow and find and see things. And I think the level of consciousness, podcasts such as yours that are expanding what people are, exposed to. Because even though it's out there, not all of us are tuning into that information on a regular basis.
Yeah. And, Rocio, to your point, I'm thinking about, you look at that triangle and up at the top, those go-getters that broke out of that mental cycle, but it's so easy nowadays to stay down in that lower part. We make it so comfortable for people that, even you could sit there and I could take 100 of my students and give them your book and say, come on, fight your traumas. Let's go, really, try to motivate them and stuff. And it's just so easy to not try. And I think that's why that top of that pyramid is so small, why they are the ones that make all the calls, because they are not afraid of the risk. They are open-minded. They are tapping into something stronger, and we are just being kept. Well, we're not. I like to think we're elevating our consciousness, but it's just, that's why I was asking you earlier about this almost conspiratorial thing, and I heard it said, if we were going to create a human and we wanted to make them tough, would we just make everything easy for them? Right? Or would we want to challenge them? If we wanted them to be really smart, or if we wanted to teach them patience, would we give them everything? Or would we not? Right? So it's like that mindset. And those people at the top have figured that out. Like, They've figured discipline, not taking it personal, staying focused, and going after the goal no matter what. And they don't care if they're living in a box. There's just some people that are like that, and they accept that risk. But I wanted to ask you guys too, and you can comment on that in a minute. I want to go more paranormal before we let you guys go.
Please.
Have either of you had any paranormal personal experiences with the paranormal, metaphysical, or something maybe unexplained that might have helped influence the book in a way?
Well, thank you for asking. I was inside of the pyramid in Giza doing a meditation in a special date, like an equinox.
The equinox.
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 3 years ago.
Yeah, 3 years ago.
And at one point we were meditating, and I was in total silence asking for, please give me the mission. How can I help?
You got a download.
Yes. And was like an entity, like it's behind you, yourself, came with my mind. And at one point it's like, who's this chick? Who's this chick? Right? It's like, tell me.
Who are you again?
Tell me the records of this one who is asking for something. Let's see. And you know what they did? It's like they scanned my heart. And at one point was, she's pure. Okay, we're going to help her. And it's like, thank you. I don't know. And of course, at that point, I didn't know that this was real. I keep it quiet, don't say anything, because the people are going to say you are crazy. So is that, now that I see it, is being like a really clear, but really a privilege to be inside of the pyramid. And then I was feeling better about myself. I was more open. And it's like all this domino effect that was happening, synchronicities for us to be there asking for something. And then we have many downloads of wisdom to do the book.
Yeah.
Well, and the fact that you said you felt like the scanning of the heart, and what better place than, I mean, and to be alive, but of course the ritual of the weighing of the heart against the feather of Mayan at the end of someone.
She teaches mythology.
I teach Egyptian mythology. So
synchronicities.
This, I mean, heavy hearts go on into, not into the, the underworld that they would want. But the fact that you're saying that you felt that scanning of the heart, you received a download, that is like a present day. It is. It's the ritual against the feather of Mayan.
Yeah.
Really. And at one point was super funny, because the next 7 days I was twitching, like, like they were doing an upgrade in the system.
For sure.
It was
version 2.0.
It was funny.
And that's why we when we wrote the book, it was about very basic things, because we believe that it's almost like an initiation, and the initiation starts with a cleansing, and the cleansing is letting go of the past and thinking that you are your past, that you're your trauma, that you were sexually abused and you still have to carry that, and you're damaged goods and so on and so forth. We need to leave that behind, because what ends up happening is that the moment that you start entering that, you really do start to experience miracles. And we literally were speaking about this yesterday, in which we were saying we need to start a list of all of the things that are happening to us on a daily basis. Because, for example, lately, and a couple of days ago, we were starting to say, we said a couple of things, and a couple of days later, somebody calls and says, hey, by the way, I know so-and-so, and I think you should do this. And we're looking at each other, it's like, that was exactly what we mentioned. I, for example, in my first paranormal experience, I enjoy off-roading, so in the Jeep, and go to the mountains and so on. And I was
Sure,
traveling from LA to Texas, and I was on my own. It was like a 22-hour trip, but it was a great run, so I wanted to go. And all of a sudden, I was listening to a book called Untethered Soul. I believe it's Brian Singer. And all of a sudden, I felt like the being behind you, because all I felt was eyes. And it was silence and eyes looking at the road. And it lasted for a second or two. And it was just this awareness. And I was so moved by that, scared as well, that I got home that evening and I called her immediately. I said, look, before anything happens, I just need you to know that this happened to me. And before I wake up tomorrow and I don't remember or whatever. And moments like that have continued to happen. And to be honest, I don't know that we would have written the book that we've written if we had not been really intervened by whatever that force is, whatever you want to call it, whether it's God, the universe. And, you know, it's profound, it's deep, and it's beyond us. And there's wisdom in there, and in a love, this tenderness, because I believe that that's what's missing in the world today, that we can be forceful and methodical and intentional about so many things that need change in the world. But now we also need to bring that empathy that brings us together, that we're all kind of learning and following these, the best that we can, right? And that we've stopped talking to each other. We need to talk more to each other and understand each other, because I am you and you are me. And when we have really understanding of that, we start living in a different world. So yes, I think we live paranormal activities on a daily basis in all different ranges.
Yes, no, many things happened to me, and it's really, my mom died when I was 20. So her presence was really protecting much of my journey. And even though I have a lot of trauma too, and I was able to release the trauma until I was 50. So only 3 years ago.
Her mom was showed up and confirmed to her, yes, you've met the person you need to be with. When we met, things like that. And until very recently, right, where you said, okay, Mom,
yes,
we've been together long enough.
I let you go.
Yes.
But she's not going.
And that's
She
20
wants to stay.
That's like 25, 30 years later.
Well, Michelle can tell you the story about how the city she grew up in and all that. Go through the list.
Oh my gosh, he does this too. Okay,
This
so
is great.
I grew up off of Wayne Road, went to Wayne Memorial, lived in Wayne County. Let's see.
What else?
Well, dated a guy named Wayne in 93, 94. This guy, we were apart for 23 years.
Wow.
We were married to two separately different people. And then both ended up going through divorces, probably about a year apart.
Yeah.
And then
the same time.
reconnected when my divorce was final. And then all of a sudden, you know, here we are, and we've been back together for about 10 years and married for almost 8 again.
Yeah.
So
congratulations.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But it's just really bizarre.
We
And-
always joke about the synchronicities about
Yeah.
all Wayne all the time, as Nathan
Right.
from the Quantum
Right.
Show said.
That's right.
100% on that.
And the only reason why it's bizarre is because we don't speak about these things often enough, right? They're not part of our everyday conversation. I think the moment you open yourselves up, as you have now, and we told you more about our story, we will find the same. We'll start finding out that this is so common. So what we consider paranormal, really, it's normal. It's just we have been taught not to speak about it. And 500 years ago, they would burn you if you started to speak about this, right? And we're still dealing with the aftermath of that. But I believe this is going to happen more and more as we realize that really we're part of something so much greater. And as we start seeing it, because, it becomes obvious, and it's always been around us.
Yeah, and it's funny because you guys talk about the book and these experiences you've had. Michelle and I in 2018, we had an encounter with a giant flying black triangle. Very late at night, 2:30 in the morning, we had an experience, and I'm not going to get all into that.
I listened to your first podcast.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
I'm sorry. It was episode 0. It was horrible. But it was because of that experience that in 2021 that we started a Facebook group, and then we ended up with 3,000 people on there telling us their stories, and this person, that person, because they felt safe to talk about it. So I told Michelle, I said, maybe we should just record a podcast and maybe we should start talking about this. I feel like we should probably do something like this. And that's the only reason why we're here today.
And to be honest, there are times where we will look at each other and go, are we done with the podcast?
Yeah,
so because
right.
I know for him, he's the tech side of all of this.
Mhm.
So, and I know that it's exhausting for him sometimes doing all the technical work, and then just something just snaps us right out of it. And it's
Yeah,
like,
we can't
nope,
get away.
We're nope.
Right.
It's necessary.
Yeah.
We understand because we're human, and once in a while doubt sets in. It's like, is this what we really want to do? Is this the message? Is this? And all of a sudden, to your point, Michelle, someone sends a message, and you just changed my life. And it's like, oh my gosh. And then it's almost like I just want to put my head down in reverence, because it's listening to me and saying, I hear you, and no, you got to keep going.
It happens all the time. I will sit here and look at Michelle and go, you know what? I'm through dealing with YouTube. I'm over this. And she'll be like, no, I'll go
and I'll
sit
instantly
down.
start bringing up our listeners and everybody who's normally in chat.
And I'll sit down and I'll look and check my emails, and then there'll be somebody requesting that I want to have come on the show, or that seems very interesting, that wants to come on and talk about their books and their experiences, come on the show. There's always something that is there to pull us back in. And it's just like, I've just accepted it now. It's just like, this is just the way it is. But I wanted to ask you, before we get out of here, with your experiences, the downloads, being in the pyramid, driving in your Jeep, was there any missing time? Do you think that maybe you guys were abducted, and in the presence of, these guys here in some way?
No, never. But the message that I've been keeping, that I receive all the time, is at the end, it's important. Every person contribute to the universe, to the all. So if you are in joy, in happiness, in love, then the vibration of the galaxy helps. So is the only thing that I can tell you, that I never been in front of, they took me and fly. That will be super cool. Please take me one day. and
That's what I always say. I want to learn how to fly these things.
Yes, with the mind, I probably. But you need to read our book, release all the trauma, be totally consciousness, and then get out here.
And me neither. I've never, I can't say that there's been a moment in which that sensation or feeling or thought has crossed my mind. I do think that we're influenced greatly by the forces around us. And, and that could be an extraterrestrial being, but that can also be a tree. I think everything that exists in this universe has vibration and force and power. In that trip to Egypt, on our way back, someone had been with us throughout the entire trip, but we learned that she saw the energy in rocks, and she had this connection to rocks where she could feel and experience their existence. And, you know, if that exists in rocks, which we, from our point of view, consider a non-living thing, imagine everything else that surrounds us. And quantum physics, it's demonstrating that, right? That everything is connected through its vibration, and planets and the Earth and all the other planets and the sun. There's a reason why ancient civilizations veneered the sun and the moon. There's a reason why the moon races the oceans and lowers the oceans. I mean, we are
And
not
it
just this, I think also it's
it perfectly occludes the sun. It's exactly the right size to cover a star that's 93 million miles away from us at a very specific scale. I mean, it's just, you know, it stabilizes our orbit so we don't flip flop, and we can have the 4 seasons that we need to sustain life. Now they're saying it could possibly be hollow. There's something inside of it, and you know, possible bases and beings that live on. I mean, it's just, there's so much. There's just so much.
Somewhere along the way, many years ago, we thought the Earth was flat.
Yes.
And someone came and with some crazy idea that it could be round. And so I think that we're going to, as we continue, we're going to find ourselves at those crossroads of new information coming in. You know, you're talking about the way you express yourself about the sun and the seasons. Thousands of years ago, pyramids were constructed around the world that were perfectly aligned to the astros. Holy cow. The question then is, who were those people that constructed that? And what if that's what they could do with just construction? Imagine what else they could do. And we are the sons and daughters of that. And so the question is, can we awaken more of that power within us? And I believe we can.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we are definitely, as Graham Hancock says, a species with amnesia.
Right.
But I think it goes back further. I think there was an advanced human race 70-some thousand years ago, and then around 12,000 years ago, all the stories of myths or the floods and things like that, it's not just in the Bible, it's everywhere. And it, you know, everybody talks about floods resetting and this catastrophe that happens. So, and you know what? We're going to definitely get you guys to come back onto the show, and we'll get something set up here for the next couple months so we can continue this conversation. But this has been one of my favorite conversations, and I don't want to keep you guys too long. I don't know, Michelle, what do you think? Was this like the best? Like one of the best? I gotta put it up there.
I want to read the book before we come back together.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
So absolutely, because we gotta dig into this.
It's gonna be book talk.
Yeah.
Book talk night.
Yep.
Love it.
So all right. So before we let you guys go and we get out of here, and is anything coming up for you guys soon? Any appearances, talks, or shows that you want to talk about that you're going to be coming on? And by the way, everybody, the book can be found theorchidbook.com. So
in all the platforms,
in every major platform, it's an electronic, physical, and audiobook as well, if that's what you prefer.
Oh, I'm getting there.
But look, we are planning the rest of the year right now. But I think the most important thing that may be coming is we're planning a series of book clubs so that people who may not be associated with small book clubs or in communities can one day join us online, and we can have in-depth conversations about their experience reading the book.
Nice.
But you can go to that website you mentioned, theorchidbook.com, for more information about it.
Awesome. All right. Well, Angel, Rocio, thank you very much for coming on. This was a great conversation, and we can't wait to talk to you guys again here toward the end of summer, and we will have a great conversation then too. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Wayne, Michelle. It's been our pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody. We said we had to keep this short, and we're going to try to keep our word to that. So everybody, Thank you, everybody that was in chat. And I know it's Easter. Not a lot of people were here this time.
Yeah,
and
we knew it was going to be a small
we knew it
audience,
was
but
gonna
we
be
know you're
small.
listening to this later on.
Yes, yes. And you guys are going to be kind of bummed out that you didn't catch the live, but that's okay. We still love you guys anyways. So
Yep. And we will see you next Sunday with Michael Roser.
yes, Micah Roser. All right, everybody, have a great night. And remember, keep those eyes to that.
I am so jealous that she got to meditate inside
the
the pyramid
pyramid
of Giza.
Dude,
That
we
is
have
cool.
to do that. All right.
Okay, that's a whole nother discussion.
All right,
Keep
so-
your eyes to the sky, folks.
Yeah, listen to her. Keep your eyes to the sky, or you might get flipped in the nose. She's mean. She'll
I am not.